Terror is approaching, mystery is reviving, and the world is entering an era of terror. The fierce ghost roars, the evil ghost roars, and everywhere the land becomes a forbidden area for death. Everyone is trapped in endless fear and wailing. Only in front of Ji he did his art style appear somewhat different, ranked first on the Li Gui List, Chinese female ghost in red wedding dress. Ranked second on the Li Gui List, the female ghost of Fusang is Bai Wujie. Damn it. What's wrong with them? Are we going to kill again? No, they're carrying red sedan chairs and dowries, it looks like they're going to pick up the groom. Keywords of the novel. Great blind date, no pop-ups, great blind date. Download the entire TXT collection, Great Blind Date. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Minor Blind Dates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Minor Blind Dates. Do you have a room? Yes, but I live with my sister and my sister. Do you have a car? Does a little lamb count? Do you have any savings? No. You. Have you reached adulthood? Gu Qingqing looked at the blind date in front of him with a speechless expression and asked helplessly. Ji he sat by the window of a rather upscale restaurant, his eyes slightly distracted as he looked at the phone screen in his hand. Hello, respected player. Considering that you are currently a minor, you are temporarily unable to play games online. We will provide 1 hour of gaming service for underage players on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thank you for your cooperation. Seeing Ji he lost in thought, Gu Qingqing's pretty eyebrows furrowed slightly, and then he lightly tapped the table, saying displeased. I'm asking you something, are you being impolite now? Ji he turned off his phone with an apologetic expression on his face. Sorry. As you can see, I am not yet of age. So you've been chatting with me online for so long, saying that you've experienced a major blow in life and are currently at a low point in your life. Saying that life is actually meaningless, so I want to find a partner to get married or something. Gu Qingqing's face was slightly excited. I thought you were a middle-aged person who values life and has a successful career, but surprisingly, you haven't reached adulthood yet. Ji he blinked his eyes and said. I'm not wrong. Didn't the Lord's Mansion issue an entertainment ban a while ago? Minors under the age of 18 are not allowed to play games, read novels, watch live broadcasts, watch movies and TV dramas or engage in any other forms of entertainment on weekdays. For me, of course, this is the biggest blow in life, the lowest point of my life. Only by approaching 18 infinitely can one comprehend the pain of 17. He slapped himself in the face. Gu Qingqing sighed at his lack of vision. I thought the other person should be a mature and wealthy person who could make a good profit, but surprisingly, the other person is a little brat who hasn't even grown hair. So what do you really think? Have you been thinking about blind dates since you were young? Have you been thinking about getting married? Even if you're looking for someone to get married, go find your peers. Why are you looking for me? Ji he's expression was also somewhat melancholic. The new policy launched by the City Lord's Mansion, due to the global mutation 20 years ago, has resulted in many deaths, and the current increase in population is far from keeping up with the number of deaths. Therefore, the Lord's Mansion has decided that between the ages of 16 and 18, I must find a partner and get married. Otherwise, either the Lord's Mansion will automatically assign me randomly or I will pay a high single tax every year. As for peers, it's too childish, I like someone older than me. Global mutation and the arrival of the era of terror have awakened a large number of terrorist entities around the world. The school's learning tasks are infinitely reduced, basically only learning basic common sense, with plenty of free time. In addition, the comprehensive entertainment ban has led to children being trapped in isolated cities made of high walls, idle all day, like soulless puppets. The meaning of the Lord's Mansion is clearly to force more young people to have more children. Therefore, Ji he came for a blind date when he had nothing to do. His family is poor and cannot afford the high single tax. The objects automatically allocated by the Lord's mansion are basically ignored by no one, with at least 50% having various defects. Therefore, he can only take the initiative to attack. Ah. Sister, don't worry, I'm about to graduate from school in a few months, and I'll find a job then. I won't eat your soft food. He looked serious and didn't really want to take advantage of Gu Qingqing. Not to mention, he has a good appearance. If it were in the old days, Gu Qingqing might not be able to resist eating this little fresh meat, ending his 25-year single life, and experiencing what it feels like to be a man. Unfortunately, in the new era, ghosts are more important than appearance, and even more important than money. That's enough. Gu Qingqing's heart inexplicably emitted a hint of anger. I paid my bachelor's tax for 7 years now, my mother. I can be said to be in a lot of debt now. What I want is a wealthy person or a ghost guard. Can you help me pay off the single tax on this but? Do you understand? Ghost guards are the only beings in the new era who can resist those terrifying beings, with a special and noble status. Gu Qingqing solemnly counted the various benefits of being a ghost guard with his fingers. Ghost guards have the privilege of exempting individuals and their families from single tax, even if they have previously owed single tax. And they also enjoy free medical treatment, priority allocation of various resources, and children's priority in enjoying benefits such as the best nearby schools, which can achieve a leap in social class. So, do you understand what I mean? The social strata in this society have basically solidified. Basically, your parents belong to the same social strata as your children. Unless one can become a guardian of one side or become a spouse of the guardian. He nodded. Understood, you want to eat soft rice. Gu Qingqing's lips twitched, but he couldn't think of any retort. Although Gu Qingqing is already 25 years old, he does not show any signs of old age. It looks young and delicate, no worse than an 18-year-old girl, and even more charming and sexy than the so-called school flower in school. Therefore, she felt that only successful men could match her. Gu Qingqing, you must find a man with money or strength. In this world of fixed social classes, what's wrong with eating soft food? You should also look for those wealthy women instead of me, because I also want to eat soft rice, so it's impossible to give you soft rice to eat. That's it, I'll hurry to meet the next blind date. Tisk, it's already this point. A little brat who hasn't even grown a hair is really wasting my time. With a cold remark, Gu Qingqing shook her sleeve and left, only to see a waiter suddenly stop her. Miss, your table has a total of 5,800 yuan. Please make the payment. Gu Qingqing's cheeks twitched and his heart thumped even more. She remembered that she had always thought he was a successful middle-aged person. So I deliberately chose the location at this high-end restaurant with high per capita consumption, in order to test the other party's financial strength. But now Gu Qingqing regrets it. She shouldn't just focus on ordering such expensive dishes alone. Subconsciously, he glanced at He at the table and saw him holding the Haagen-Dazs he had just ordered, eating and saying, "Thank you auntie, this soft rice is really delicious." Gu Qingqing's lips twitched as she attached them to He's ear. Isn't it usually men who pay for dates and meals? You know, when men invite me to eat, I disdain it. In this case, I don't want you to pay in full, shall we AA? He took a sip of Haagen-Dazs and blinked his eyes, with a slightly defined corner of his mouth carrying a hint of a dark yet narrow-minded smile. No. You don't really think. A little brat who hasn't even grown hair, will he bring money when he goes out? Gu Qingqing hurriedly said. Then you call yourself your master. Don't. You insisted on choosing this place yourself, and the dishes were all ordered by yourself. It was you who forced me to come over, so you should have paid for it. The waiter reminded appropriately at this moment. It's okay, if you can't afford to pay, you can help us wash the dishes. Did you hear me? Wash the dishes. Gu Qingqing fiercely threatened Ji He. However, Ji He doesn't eat this at all. According to the regulations of the Lord's mansion, children are not allowed to work, otherwise they will face huge fines. As long as children fall in love and have children, they are not allowed to do anything related to work in the Lord's mansion. Gu Qingqing fishing for Kaizia no, it's probably the first time in so many dates that someone has asked her to pay voluntarily. Thank you, Auntie. Goodbye, Auntie. As Gu Qingqing paid with a black thread, Ji He happily asked the waiter to pack all the dishes on the table that were not even touched, and the harvest was quite fruitful. Damn it, I won't be dating offline anymore. Who knows if the other party is a primary school student, and they will also extort an additional box of Haagen-Dazs from you. Gu Qingqing walked out of the restaurant with a black face, cursing profusely. However, what she didn't expect was that an inconspicuous red wedding dress in the corner would follow behind. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Arranged marriage is great. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Arranged marriage is great. It's so annoying, the little brat who still stinks of milk has tricked me. If it weren't for the underage protection law, I would have hit him. Wait for me, the little one who hasn't even grown hair. When you reach adulthood, don't run after school. With a few breathless murmurs, Gu Qingqing's face was filled with resentment. But soon, the resentment on his face disappeared without a trace. Because her next blind date, a middle-aged man in a suit with a successful career, was standing in front of her. Mr. Wang, right. We had an appointment before. When Gu Qingqing saw the middle-aged man's appearance, he instinctively took a step back. You are Miss Gu, right? You are really quite beautiful. Mr. Wang's eyes were full of undisclosed desires, making Gu Qingqing start to miss the face of Ji He before. At least eating with him won't be appetizing. You're also quite handsome. Looking at the man with a big belly and even some baldness, Gu Qingqing forced a heartless smile. Men in this world only talk about strength, and their appearance is nothing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put in all my effort to test again and again, only then could I barely awaken the talent of the Ghost Defender. The man laughed self-deprecatingly. In an instant, Gu Qingqing felt from the bottom of his heart that although the man in front of him was surpassed by Ji He in terms of appearance, at least he had a fortune of billions. Well, to a certain extent, a ghost guard is also equivalent to a certain amount of wealth. The man in a suit turned sideways and made a gesture of invitation in front of a shiny black sedan. Come on up, I'll take you to a good place. To be honest, a stranger who immediately proposes to take themselves to a place will be wary of anyone. But Gu Qingqing hesitated for a moment before nodding and getting on the car. This is one of the few opportunities for her to climb high, and coupled with his car, it looks like she has billions of people nearby. The man in a suit was chatting with Gu Qingqing while driving. Through chatting, Gu Qingqing discovered that this man finally awakened his talent as a ghost guard during his third test at the age of 22. It can be said that the talent is quite poor, which is enough to cross that threshold. And chatting with oneself also looks absent-minded, at least in terms of attitude, there is no such emphasis on her as Ji He did before. If she were to be identified as a ghost guard, Gu Qingqing could only give her a score of 50, for the sake of having a car. However, although Gu Qingqing is far inferior to Ji He in terms of appearance and attitude, relying solely on his identity as a ghost guard, Gu Qingqing feels like he has fallen in love with him. Where is this? Arrive at the destination and get off. Mr. Wang led Gu Qingqing to a remote village. This village is called Qingshu Village, and Gu Qingqing has a vague impression, as if it was mentioned in the news before. However, this Qingshu village is very strange. It is a post-disaster reconstruction society, but how can so many people wear ancient costumes at the same time? Especially when the villagers looked at him with that strange gaze, Gu Qingqing was inexplicably aroused. The most eerie thing is that the entire village is decorated with lights and decorations, and red ancient decorations can be seen everywhere, as if someone is going to get married. You'll find out later. Mr. Wang led Gu Qingqing to a dilapidated thatched cottage. Taking advantage of Gu Qingqing's presence, the man in the suit smiled inexplicably. He stood behind Gu Qingqing and reached out his hand, pushing Gu Qingqing's entire body in. Then with a pop, the entire door was suddenly locked. This made Gu Qingqing's face turn pale. She wouldn't have encountered a human trafficker, would she? Hey, open the door. Hurry up and open the door. I won't go on a blind date with you anymore, let me go back quickly. Gu Qingqing kept knocking on the door, but no one responded to her. Suddenly, an unknown and sinister wind blew by, and the temperature of the entire room decreased significantly. The coldness solidified the blood inside Gu Qingqing's body, and the sudden appearance of a figure behind her made Gu Qingqing turn back slowly and stiffly. Beside the red cotton quilt and double bed, sat a bride. Wearing a seductive red wedding dress, with a slightly raised red cap on the head, it is clearly the most traditional Chinese wedding dress. She has a scar on her face that looks like a centipede, but it is not noticeable because there is a yellow talisman attached to her forehead. But Gu Qingqing can almost confirm at a glance ghost. She must be a ghost. Not only is the body of the red wedding dress floating, but also because of her body, it appears to have reached 2.5 meters at first glance. That's definitely not the height that humans can have. Mom, look at my red wedding dress and don't let me die too early. The red wedding dress combed her head, and the melodious and eerie music lingered in the room, causing Gu Qingqing's hair to stand tall. Does he like someone like you? On the thigh of the red wedding dress, there is an old engagement paper. On the engagement, there was a name that made Gu Qingqing inexplicably feel somewhat familiar. Even though the terrifying presence on the bed disdained to do anything, Gu Qingqing still felt a wave of shivers. Suddenly, she seemed to feel something, and as she looked up a bright red cap suddenly covered Gu Qingqing's head. At the same time, a red wedding dress that followed from the ground jumped onto Gu Qingqing's body like liquid, constantly merging with her body. No no. Ah ah ah. A mournful scream came from the thatched cottage. Gu Qingqing's phone in his pocket suddenly pushed a news message. 3 days ago, Qingshu village, which had 300 villagers, suddenly fell to the brink of death, suspected to have been nurtured by a fierce ghost. Qingshu village is rated as a dead zone, a natural disaster level. No one is allowed to approach within 100 miles of its range. After a long time, the door of the thatched cottage opened slightly. The man in the suit had no trace of moisture on his body at this moment, and his eyes were full of vitality. He lay on the ground, speaking in a respectful yet hoarse voice. Congratulations on the birth of the master. With a loud bang, the man in the suit suddenly felt his back lightly tapped, and then the door curtain of the sedan chair shook without wind, adding a little extra weight to the entire sedan chair out of thin air. Li Gui's red wedding dress, born. After Ji and his blind date failed, he went home and started cleaning up. While he was wiping the floor, an iron box suddenly came out from under his sister's bed. This seems to be Grandpa's relic. I said I can't find it. It turns out it's here. Ji Hippo opened the iron box with some sighs, revealing several old, dusty engagements inside. Sure enough, it's still there. I really don't know where Grandpa brought it from back then. It was also said that it was a marriage agreement made with many young girls, including those from my own country, those from Fusang, and those from the West. Everyone had such a great physique that they were probably the type I liked. Isn't that ridiculous? Who is still in the trend of arranged marriages these days? He shook his head and chuckled, then let go of his engagement. However, thinking of today's failed blind date, he suddenly murmured with a sigh. If there really is a marriage-arranged partner. That would be great. It seemed to be responding to he, but suddenly there were 2 engagement cards in the box, blooming with strange colors. Red wedding dress and seasonal harmony. White without dirt and seasonal harmony. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Being single turns out to be myself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Being single turns out to be myself. The new #1 ghost list has appeared. City Lord's mansion conference room. A beautiful young woman is closing her eyes. Strangely, behind her was a female ghost dressed in green. The female ghost covered the young woman's eyes with her pale, corpse-like hands, allowing her to see things that others couldn't see. Mu Qianro, do you think the first place on the list of evil spirits has appeared? So, Bai Wujie in the Fusang area is no longer the first place on the list of evil spirits. Who suddenly made a comeback and became the top scorer? Is it Sadako of Fusang or Kayako? A group of high-ranking officials from the Lord's mansion gathered around Mu Qianro, seemingly accustomed to this eerie appearance for a long time. No, it's not them, it's a newly born ghost named Red Wedding Clothes. The arm that covered Mu Qianro's eyes suddenly disappeared, and when she opened her eyes, her face turned pale with iron. Ghosts are invincible. Humans are only worthy to mourn under their hands. But over time, humans have found their own way of survival in this harsh environment. That is to say, the so-called ghost guards, who gain some special abilities by guarding ghosts and monsters. One of Mu Qianro's abilities as a ghost guard is to be able to see the ranking list of the strongest and most fierce ghosts in the world. A frail old man sighed. Get ready. Let's publish this message so that all the residents in our city can be prepared. On this side, everyone is discussing the changes in the list of fierce ghosts released on their phones a few hours ago. Hey, have you seen today's leaderboard? Bai Wujie, who has been at the top of the leaderboard for a year, is no longer at the top. Hiss. What's the origin of this red wedding dress? Why did it suddenly become the #1? Do you still want people to live? Alas, I didn't mention that the wedding dress is in our city. Why bother about all this? Eat and eat, don't forget what we're here for today. I remember. We're here to show affection to Ji Heshio. In a private room of a hotel, a group of people of the same age as Ji He were chatting. They sat on one side of the private room, while Ji He sat alone on the other side, appearing somewhat lonely. It's not that they were excluded, mainly because there was a delicate girl in their arms, emitting a copper smell called love. It's difficult to get along with Ji and this single aristocrat who exudes a fragrance alone. And just above Ji He's head, there is also a banner hanging. Congratulations to Class 4 of Senior High School, which has a total of 25 students. Out of 24 students, they have all taken off and tied the knot. Ji He looked at a total of 20.4 classmates in front of him with a convulsive expression, his face full of incredible expressions. When were you together? How come I don't know? There are a total of 25 students in the class, including 12 females and 13 males. As a result, they pieced together to form 12 couples, leaving only Ji and one. Being single turns out to be me, even heaven is playing with him. You run home every day after school, how could you possibly know? Classmate Wang Peng looked even more grateful and said. Thank you, big brother. I thought I was struggling and my family didn't have money, so I was determined to be alone. But I didn't expect you to come home every day after school, creating opportunities for me in other girls. It's really thanks to you. Wang Peng gratefully patted Ji He's shoulder, but Ji He couldn't be happy at all. He should have been doing laundry and cooking at home as usual now, and then waiting for his sister to come back for dinner. But the result was deceived by a classmate claiming to have something important. Result his mother, you show your love here. It's the so-called important thing. Oh my, don't undermine Ji and his classmates. He is handsome and has a good temper. If he didn't have to go home immediately every day to clean up and cook for his family, he wouldn't have been single until now. The short-haired female classmate covered her mouth and smiled. Sister has to go to work every day and comes back very late. My younger sister is still young and immature, otherwise washing clothes, cooking, and doing household chores would not fall on Ji-hee. By the way, although you don't have time in your spare time, didn't you say you went on a blind date? What was the result? Wang Peng asked curiously. I blew it. It looks pretty, but maybe they don't like things that are too small, right? Speaking of this, Ji-hee became even more depressed. I originally held the firm belief of not eating grass by the nest and wanted to find someone outside. As a result, I couldn't find anything outside and suddenly turned around. Even the grass by the nest is gone. Alright, eat the vegetables. I'm full of dog food and won't eat it. After roast, the students quickly changed the topic and talked about their own topics. It's nothing more than interesting school events, club activities, hobbies, etc., almost completely forgotten about Ji-hee. That's right, Ji-hee has to go to junior high school to pick up his sister every day after school. After picking it up, we need to prepare delicious food before the big sister comes back from work. The rare weekend leisure time, in order to subsidize family expenses, also involves working as a black laborer in some sweatshops. I have long disconnected from social relationships with this group of classmates. Therefore, Ji-hee could only sit alone on the side, smiling as a quiet and beautiful man, while also taking care of his only role as a single dog. Without his singleness as a backdrop, how can these present feelings of superiority be highlighted? Ji-hee, as a virtuous wife and mother, it shouldn't be difficult for you to find a girlfriend to get married. If you have time, it's better to quickly find one. Even my sister and sister can't stay with you forever, can they? Indeed, your parents have both passed away and your economic conditions are not good. It's better to quickly find anyone to get married as soon as possible. I think my neighbor's daughter next door is pretty good, just a little overweight and lazy, but isn't she a perfect match for your diligent personality? Ha ha ha. The classmates brought the topic up to Ji-hee again. However, every conversation about Ji-hee is under the guise of being related to Ji-hee, either mocking or filled with a sense of superiority. Almost didn't let Ji-hee lift the table and exclaim that I won't eat this dog food anymore. Just as Ji-hee was thinking about finding an excuse to leave, the originally bright lights suddenly began to flicker. At the same time, everyone's phones suddenly rang, indicating the latest news released by the Lord's mansion. After investigation, it was found that the red wedding dress appeared in the Xiangshan district of Qingchuan City, but please do not panic. We can guarantee that we will definitely solve this crisis. Although it was a message sent by the Lord's mansion, its wording gives people a feeling that even the Lord's mansion lacks confidence. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Natural disasters approaching. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Natural disasters approaching. In the conference room of the Lord's mansion, a group of high-level officials were engaged in a heated discussion about the birth of the red wedding dress. Damn it, I knew that the sudden appearance of the death-forbidden area would definitely give birth to a great terror. But aren't ordinary ghosts extremely weak when they were born? Even if they are pure, they only become stronger after devouring other ghosts one after another. As soon as this girl was born, she immediately surpassed Bai Wujie, indicating her terror. Mu Qianrou worried and said. Whenever a fierce ghost is born, it is bound to be littered with corpses, let alone among the top-ranked fierce ghosts. Red wedding dress has just been born, so I suggest immediately targeting her to see who her goals are and what she wants to do. Mu Qianrou held a high position, and as she instructed, someone quickly shouted. Locked, locked. The surveillance on the roadside has been disrupted by the red wedding dress, but through satellite positioning, we finally locked in the specific location of the red wedding dress. Seeing this, a bald commander quickly asked. What is she doing now? What is her destination? Is she going to kill or devour other fierce ghosts? A level of fierce ghost like this has just been born. Whether it's a thorough slaughter or devouring other fierce ghosts, it can enhance one's own strength. But I saw the staff responsible for controlling satellite positioning, looking at the computer screen in front of me and swallowing a strange mouthful of saliva. No, it doesn't seem like she's either going to kill or devour other fierce ghosts. I don't know exactly where she wants to go, but It's like getting married. Quickly, everyone gathered around the screen. They saw a very strange and eerie scene on the screen at a glance. On the lonely and dim street, a group of people dressed in red appeared inexplicably. Wearing an eerie red veil on his head, he could barely conceal his face. The occasional exposure of pale skin and stiff bodies is enough to prove that they are not human. The first two, swinging their slender and wide red sleeves, had an ethereal figure. A few people in the middle are playing gongs, while those playing swona are playing swona. The last four red-clothed non-human beings have the strongest evil energy. They carry the red sedan chair used for ancient weddings, with a strange posture. A gust of wind blew up a corner of the curtain in the middle of the red sedan chair. Although I couldn't see the face of the sedan chair owner, I could vaguely see his pale hands trembling slightly in front of his lower abdomen. It seems like a petite yellow flower girl, feeling shy about meeting her soon-to-be-introduced husband. Next to the sedan chair, a black suit man was also wearing a spacious ancient red dress, leading a horse that looked like it was made of paper money, which should be used to pick up the groom. Obviously, this is the most classic Chinese wedding. However, on a black and lonely street, the extremely eye-catching eerie red color does not represent celebration, but rather a sign of great calamity. Especially the eerie music played with the sound of swona and gongs, filled with the atmosphere of the underworld, makes one feel shivering. Even if it's across a screen, even if you're in the conference room. A group of high-ranking officials from the Lord's mansion couldn't help but feel numb and startled, as if they were about to gasp for breath. Suddenly, the entire eerie wedding procession shook violently, and everyone could only see a pale hand extending from the sedan chair. The slender red nails are very seductive and beautiful, but suddenly they become bigger and bigger with just one touch. Even the image captured by the satellite turned into a silent snowflake. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but fall into a deathly silence. Red wedding dress, the strongest ghost in the world, what does its appearance mean? Corpses are scattered everywhere, and the entire city has become a new large-scale death zone. Everyone present was trembling, and some even took out handguns and had suicidal thoughts. Previously, a large city was also invaded by a natural disaster-level ghost, causing millions of people to evaporate overnight. But they did not die, but only transformed into undead spirits and ghosts, obeying the guidance of natural disasters and never being able to be reborn again. When all means of resistance, intelligence, and seeking help are ineffective, suicide is actually a good choice. However, just as the despair filled everyone and suffocated them, heaven seemed to have played a clumsy joke on them. The red wedding dress disappeared. The technical personnel transferred other surveillance cameras, but in their original position, no one could find the figure of the red wedding clothes and the wedding team no matter what. Even Mu Qianro had a strange expression on her face. I can't feel the scent of the red wedding dress anymore. It's like walking and suddenly disappearing. Here, the students in the hotel fell into a moment of silence, their faces filled with fear and unease. But they can only hide in the hotel and not go anywhere, because running outside without permission will only lead to faster death. Dong dong dong. At this moment, the door was suddenly knocked on, causing everyone to shrink into a ball like frightened birds. Ji he, go open the door. A classmate said. The others were each holding their own boyfriend and girlfriend, hiding in the deepest part of the private room trembling. They are all people with boyfriends and girlfriends. How sad would their significant other be if something unexpected happened? Ji he is different. They are alone, and if something unexpected happens, they won't be so sad. Ji he looked at them and was speechless. Shouldn't a single dog deserve to die together? But he was already closest to the door, and coupled with the large Xiangshan area, why did the red wedding dress come specifically to the hotel when he was full and had nothing to do? Do you want to eat a banquet? Thinking this way, he arrived at the door. At this moment, the lights suddenly became flickering, even the bright moon outside the window was obscured by dark clouds, as if avoiding something. Immediately after, the soft weather began to rain heavily, and the thunder in the sky erupted into a golden light, as if hinting outside the door, "It's hell." He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Can't it be so coincidental? With a click, the door was suddenly opened. When Jiha opened the gate, the lights were no longer flickering, and the storm was suddenly disappearing. The bright moon also dispelled the dark clouds, and a soft radiance shone on the person at the door. Wearing an extremely bright red long dress, she couldn't conceal her tall figure like a model, and the red high heels under her feet showed a hint of sexiness. At the same time, there was a hint of crimson with a hint of supernatural aura in his eyes, and a smiling face with a tilted head was full of energy. "Hi, hello." He was extremely surprised. Gu Qingqing. At the moment when Gu Qingqing appeared, the Lord's mansion issued another notice. "I'm very sorry, it may have been an error in the technical department. Currently, red wedding dress has not appeared anywhere. Please rest assured." While everyone breathed a sigh of relief, Wang Peng, who was trembling behind him, curiously asked. Who is she? Is she your sister?" Boy, there was a hint of fascination and amazement in his gaze towards Gu Qingqing. The girl instinctively glanced at Gu Qingqing's proud chest and then lowered her head to look at herself autism on the spot. There were many female classmates present, some of whom were good-looking but had no hair at all. Compared to Gu Qingqing, who was sexy, mature, and had a perfect temperament, it's like being left with nothing in seconds. He let Gu Qingqing in and explained. "She was my previous blind date, named Gu Qingqing, and she." Before he could finish speaking, Gu Qingqing suddenly hugged he's arm with both hands and tilted his head, smiling heartily. "Today we went on a blind date. He is very nice and handsome. Although he doesn't have a car, a house, or money, I don't care. I just want to have one. But he didn't seem to like me very much and even refused me. So I came over today and even brought him a gift, hoping he could give me a chance, hoping he." Two large dimples appeared on Gu Qingqing's face, which looked very tempting. "Can marry me." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Invincible Licking Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Invincible Licking Dog. For this, I have bought all my houses. Gu Qingqing placed the property certificates one by one on the table, gradually arranging them and filling a small square table. Meanwhile, Gu Qingqing took out a brick and stone weighing about 10 carats from his black bag, a standard pigeon egg. Bricks and stones are blood red in color, shining brightly. "This is a small gift from me to you. I know that mature women should always give gifts to men and surprise them." Gu Qingqing forcefully stuffed the blood-red pigeon egg into he's palm, and even he couldn't do it without it. He looked at her with a bewildered expression on his face. At this moment, he really wanted to say, "What's wrong with your brain?" Many students were in a state of uproar, their expressions complex, and their gaze towards he was as if they wished to devour him alive. A female classmate looked at the blood brick up close and exclaimed in surprise. "This impure brick and stone is probably priceless. Is this blood brick from Qingshu village? I remember there was a diamond mine there. But isn't Qingshu village already sealed off now? How did you get this brick and stone?" Gu Qingqing flicked her hair on her shoulder and looked at he's expression, which seemed to be a smile rather than a smile. "My family used to be in Qingshu village, that diamond mine. It belongs to our family." In an instant, the entire private room fell into a eerie silence. The students looked at a table of property certificates, then at the blood diamond, and finally at Gu Qingqing's truly beautiful face, eyes red with envy. "My son purple. Te Miao, I just said you didn't have a partner, but when I turned around, I found a beautiful big sister with a protruding front and a protruding back, right? Hee, when we mocked Ji for leaving after school and not having the chance to find a girlfriend, he had already found a wealthy woman with a diamond mine at home and became a winner in life. You just said that your blind date doesn't like you and thinks you're too young, but this is clearly because you don't like them. We deliberately showed off our love in front of you. Did we show off our loneliness? It turns out that the clown is actually us. The classmates gritted their teeth for a while, wanting to tear off this enviable item on the spot. Rich woman. Ah bah, little sister, do you want to come and eat together? I'll have someone prepare an extra pair of bowls and chopsticks. Wang Ping earnestly asked the waiter to bring an extra pair of bowls and chopsticks, hoping to see Gu Qingqing's stunning appearance more. Thank you. Gu Qingqing sat arrogantly next to Ji He, with his hands on his thighs, elegant yet polite. Sister, you look so young, aren't you a few years older than us? A female classmate asked curiously. Gu Qingqing smiled slightly. I'm ashamed to say that I'm already 25 years old this year. In the eyes of you 17-year-old young people, I'm afraid I'm already an old aunt, right? 25, that is to say, there is a difference of 8 years between Jiha and Jiha. So it's an old cow eating tender grass. The age difference is a bit big, no wonder he doesn't like it. You know a hammer. When you're young, you don't know how good a rich woman is. You mistook a young girl for a treasure. And at the age of 25, it's the peak of a woman's beauty. He's not losing money. A group of classmates were muttering to each other, and Wang Ping appeared somewhat indifferent. No matter what you say, girls who are so old still can't make a name for themselves. But the next second, Wang Ping changed his mind directly. Gu Qingqing seemed to disdain the delicious food in front of him, not even tasting a single chopstick. On the contrary, she pinched a piece of waste and delivered it to Ji He's mouth. Ah! Ah! Ji He was like a marionette, his face numb as he grew his mouth and ate it. Then Gu Qingqing used a tissue to wipe the corners of Ji He's mouth, which had been slightly stained with oil. She behaves like an elegant and patient maid, taking care of her with great care. Wang Ping inexplicably felt a bit sour, and he said to his girlfriend Xiaoli beside him. Ah, I also want you to feed me. Xiaoli glared at him and stomped hard under the table. You're going to rebel, right? Wang Ping's face immediately stiffened. My fault, I'll take care of you to eat. Continuously serving Xiaoli with soup like serving the queen. As she watched Gu Qingqing blow the soup spoon into her mouth, she waited until it was no longer too hot before gently sending it into Ji He's mouth. Damn it, I can't eat this meal anymore. The understanding rich lady and big sister are really amazing. Many students were no longer in the mood to eat for a while, and they just stared at Qingqing and Jiha, almost overflowing with a sour taste. I originally wanted to sprinkle dog food, but unexpectedly, I was stuffed with a mouthful of dog food. But at this moment, he couldn't be fragrant no matter what. A light and thin red cap was stuck behind Gu Qingqing at some point. The blood-like red head was wriggling like a bug, as if wanting to cover Gu Qingqing's head at any time and get married on the spot. Thinking again about Gu Qingqing's sudden abnormality, it seemed like he was possessed no matter how he looked. Red wedding dress. Isn't it really so unlucky? A layer of cold sweat covers the forehead of seasonal harmony. He secretly glanced at Gu Qingqing, but saw him immediately turn around and playfully blink at him, as if affirming Ji's guess in his heart. My blind date is not a person. He is determined in his heart that he will never leave. But he forced himself to remain calm and dared not speak out, let alone expose the truth. He was afraid that Gu Qingqing would kill someone and silence him in a fit of anger. But he dare not stay here forever. The red wedding dress, who was ranked first on the list of fierce ghosts, feeds and eats. He can't stay. Hello. What? We're going to have a baby. I'll be right here. He went out and pretended to make a phone call. After returning, he said to his classmates. Sorry, my family is about to give birth, I need to go back first. Wang Peng looked at him in a daze. Isn't it just your sister and your sister in your family? Your sister is still young and single. You are the only man in the family. Who are they having children with? Gee, he gave Wang Peng a glare. My dog is giving birth, can I go back to pick it up? Gu Qingqing smiled rather than smiled, making Ji He feel that the reason he found was really foolish. But he doesn't have a better reason right now. To leave the private room, Ji He needs to leave. After leaving the hotel, Ji and Sayako ran wildly. He doesn't think his classmates are in danger, he is extremely convinced that thing is aimed at oneself. I'm wiping. I'm walking in such a hurry, do I just want to get rid of the entanglement of the rich lady and big sister? It's really not possible, it's okay to entangle me, I don't mind. Wang Peng muttered to himself, then turned his head. Gu Qingqing left the private room at some point running wildly. Ji He felt that he must have broken his usual 100-meter record at school. After all, running slowly in school can only result in failing grades. If you run slowly at this time, not only will you lose your life, but you may also losing virginity. On the quiet road, Ji He, who was running wildly, couldn't shake off the ghost of the night. Every 50 meters, Gu Qingqing always appears on the roadside, clenching his fists as if cheering on Ji He. Meanwhile, her lips were constantly wriggling, as if saying, "Marry me." Finally, when he arrived at the downstairs of his own community, Ji He gasped for breath and shouted angrily at Gu Qingqing, who was haunted behind him. If you want to kill me, hurry up. If you don't kill me, leave. What are you constantly pestering me for? There's a way for you to confront me head-on. Since I can't resist, I can only lie on the ground and enjoy it slowly. I just want to take you home so that you, as a boy, won't be safe outside at night. Besides, you haven't accepted my gift yet. Watching the blood brick intentionally thrown into the hotel appear in Gu Qingqing's hands, Ji He swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. I can't accept your gift. Also, you're a good person. Ji He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Gu Qingqing had no intention of coming strong and no longer followed him upstairs. He thought Gu Qingqing had given up, and a formulaic forced smile suddenly appeared on his face. Good night. Ji He's figure gradually disappeared, while Gu Qingqing still stood downstairs from Ji He's house. She stood there in a daze, her expression somewhat gloomy. The sky started pouring heavy rain again. But it seems that even raindrops are afraid of Gu Qingqing. The mottled raindrops perfectly avoided the location of Gu Qingqing and did not wet any of his clothes. Master, why not use strong directly? Behind Gu Qingqing, a faint phantom appeared in the inexplicable disappearing underworld wedding procession. The engagement regulations cannot be enforced forcefully. A faint melancholy suddenly appeared on Gu Qingqing's face. Didn't we ask you to roll out into the deep sea and wait slowly? What are you doing up here? We'll go back now. Just as the underworld team was about to disappear, Gu Qingqing suddenly spoke up. Wait. What's wrong, master? A group of eerie and fierce ghosts turned around and looked at Gu Qingqing in confusion. Gu Qingqing pursed his lips lightly, and a very beautiful pear vortex suddenly appeared on his pale face. You say, not only did he smile at me, but he also said good night to me. Does he? Do you also like me? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Talking about money, I'm not sleepy anymore. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Talking about money, I'm not sleepy anymore. All night long, Ji He didn't sleep well. He always dreamed of a crazy big sister chasing him, it was terrifying. After waking up, Ji He just yawned and came out of the room, only to see his sister Ji Lan walking in with a tired face outside the door. There are black circles around the eyes, obviously I stayed up all night without sleeping. Ji He frowned. Sister, did you work overtime again last night? Didn't the Lord's mansion just announce that overtime is illegal from today on? His sister Ji Lan works as a guard in the Lord's mansion, and the whole family lives on her salary. Ji Lan yawned incessantly, then smiled at Ji he. But overtime pay is even higher. Although the red wedding dress suddenly disappeared, we still went crazy looking for her, but we couldn't find her at all. Forget it, this is the salary for this month. I can trust you to take care of it. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to sleep first. He counted the salary for this month and suddenly asked. Sister, have you been demoted? Ji Lan, who was facing her back, suddenly paused and then turned her head to give a bitter smile. Why can't I hide it from you? How did you find out? He looked at her seriously. The base salary of the elite guard team in the Lord's mansion is 4,000 yuan, plus additional subsidies for night shift overtime. The Lord's mansion is responsible for paying a portion of the single-person tax, and individuals deduct a portion of the single-person tax. When calculated, there should be 5,550 for this month, but you gave me 56 yuan. As a matter of business in the Lord's mansion, I can't give you an extra penny. So you should have received a salary cut, but I was afraid I would worry, so I borrowed some from a colleague to give me the illusion that your monthly salary is still so much. Ji Lan kept pressing her fingers, as if she wanted to rely on her poor mathematical knowledge for verification. But it seemed like I couldn't figure it out, so I scratched my head and showed a silly smile. Okay. It seems like this. Your sister, I haven't even attended junior high school, and I haven't figured out elementary school math yet. Don't take your sister's exam on me. If it's okay, I'll go back to sleep. He stared at her, her family status was clear at a glance. Sister, don't try to get by with me cute. Tell me, what's going on? Did you get drunk and go crazy again, and then hit the leader above you? Ji Lan rolled her eyes. It's not a big deal either. Just some idiots see that I'm not a ghost guard and could have been promoted to the elite guard early, but they don't like me and just want to pull me down. Damn it, even if they are both elite guards, their responsibilities are the same. But the salary of the ghost guards is more than 2 to 3 times higher than mine, and they still want to take me down like this. What a damn thing. Now it's okay, I'm just an ordinary guard guarding the gate, as they wish. The basic salary for a regular guard is 3,000 yuan and they do not enjoy the benefit of exemption from single-person tax. 2 out of 3 people in a family are still studying, causing a sharp increase in stress. He calculated. Why don't I drop out of school early? Anyway, I'll be 18 years old in 2 months. Before he could finish speaking, He's forehead was suddenly flicked by Ji Lan's finger. This is not something you little brat should think about, don't make any mistakes below this. You should study hard now. A cultured person will always find a better wife. If I could awaken the ghost defender, I could hug your thigh and make you pretend to take your sister and fly away. As for the money matter, I'll figure it out myself, okay? He stared at Ji Lan, just like most siblings, water and fire were incompatible. Where am I small? I'm not small at all. Also, you said you could come up with a solution, but what could you come up with? Ji Lan suddenly outlined the corners of her mouth, with a smile on the side of her face. I see you're small everywhere. No big deal, let's get married together. He's fists gradually clenched. But you said you don't want to get married, and you've already run away with 3 blind dates. I won't run away this time. But I will. Ji Lan looked at Ji He in a daze and suddenly chuckled. Why, I see you looking very eager to hit me. Ji He looked serious. I want to beat you, but I can't beat you. Ji Lan rubbed Ji He's head and laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, just no. Anyway, this is not something you should worry about. Your sister and I are amazing, even more amazing than you imagine. I will make our whole family rich. Ji Lan took out a can of beer from the refrigerator. Sir, can I have a can of beer? Drinking alcohol is not good for your health. Forget it, drink it. I'll bring you 2 packets of peanuts to drink. If you have 2 peanuts, you wouldn't get drunk like this before drinking. Also, I'm not young. After tidying up everything, he left the house and went downstairs. If I don't have breakfast from today on, should be able to save some money and buy new clothes for my sister and sister during the new year. I just can't play games anymore. If I take on a part-time job outside of class, I shouldn't be too young. I'm only 2 months away from turning 18, maybe I can get by. He murmured until he suddenly looked up and saw Gu Qingqing still standing in place. An overnight stay did not leave Gu Qingqing feeling any tired or haggard, but instead made him appear even more radiant. Good morning. Actually, the two of us can get along slowly. I can be responsible for making money for you to spend. He never gave her a chance to finish speaking. Good morning, goodbye, you're a good person. You will encounter better people than me. Ah, bah, you can find better ghosts than me. He really just wants to find an ordinary woman to marry. Upon arriving at school, he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Gu Qingqing had not followed. Hi, where's your wealthy older sister? How are you getting along with her? As soon as Wang Peng entered the classroom, he cared about He's wealthy older sister. What else can I do? She seems to want to make money to support me, but I refused. Wang Peng was taken aback. Why? If I were you, I'm afraid you would just kneel and lick the rich woman's thigh. Do you know how much dowry Xiaoli wants from my house? 200,000 yuan. It's not easy for your sister to make money, can't you just have a soft meal for her? He has a mixed taste in his heart. When feeling burdensome, even if the other party doesn't say it, it still makes people feel suffocated. He sighed. Don't worry about the rich lady anymore. All the gifts of fate are secretly priced. And as someone with nothing, I'm not sure if I can afford it. The better he unconditionally treats himself, the more afraid he becomes. If it were just an ordinary wealthy lady, he might just follow. Anyway, at most it's just a loss, not a loss. But if the other party is a ghost or the most fierce ghost in the world, who knows what she really wants? Wow, look. It's a car, it's a car. We don't have more than 1,000 cars in Qingchuan City, do we? It looks like it's still from the old era. Mercedes-Benz. How rich. The classmates in the classroom suddenly gathered at the window, chattering with envy on their faces. He also saw the car parked at the school gate, and what got out of the car was a young-looking girl. However, from the perspective of temperament alone, it doesn't seem like a wealthy second-generation Mu Qianro, it's Mu Qianro. Wang Peng beside him had an excited expression on his face. Mu Qianro. Is she very famous? It's not that he's not famous, but rather a very special kind of ghost guard, that kind of. Wang Peng is a bit unsure how to describe Mu Qianro's impressive performance. Fortunately, he doesn't care about these either. By the way, I've been listening to you all day talking about ghost guards. Are they really good at making money? Wang Peng's face was filled with excitement. If you make a living, you can quite make money. How much subsidy did you give your sister for her night shift last time? 50 yuan. As a ghost warder, I worked on a night shift. Even if I did the same thing as your sister, I would have to go up at least 3,000 a night. He's listless eyes suddenly burst into an astonishing radiance. If you talk about money, I won't be tired anymore. Ow. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Sea of the Abyss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Sea of the Abyss. Mu Qianro's return to visit her alma mater seemed to have caused a sensation. The principal, teaching director, and various subject teachers were all present in a timely manner. They looked polite and respectful in front of Mu Qianro, who was only in her early 20s. However, Wang Peng and others did not find it strange. Extraordinary people are like the proud sons of heaven who were admitted to prestigious universities in the old days. And Mu Qianro's position equivalent to the top scorer in the college entrance examination. As the 12th senior sister of our school, I am here to cheer for all the younger students. Hongyuan High School's current ranking is relatively average in Qingchuan City, but in my time at Hongyuan High School, it was the top-ranked school and produced many talented students. However, for some unknown reason, in recent years, Hongyuan High School's ranking has been declining, and there have been fewer and fewer ghost guards appearing. I don't know what the reason is, but I know that the people at Hongyuan High School have always been good. Therefore, in order to motivate everyone present, if there are outstanding ghost guards this year, they can prioritize working in the city lord's mansion after graduation, and their salaries and benefits will be much higher than those of ordinary graduates. If I don't want to work at the city lord's mansion, I am also willing to use my own network to help our school students enter famous giant enterprises. On the high platform of the playground, Mu Qianro's words gradually made the whole school's students start to feel excited. I can work at the city lord's mansion as soon as I graduate, not to mention how much money I have, but the advantage lies in stability in good welfare benefits. It can be said that I will never have to worry about food and drink for a lifetime. At this moment, the principal on the side took the microphone. Not only that, if any students can dive 20 meters this time, they will receive 30,000 yuan in school funding. What Mu Qianro mentioned earlier about jobs, benefits, and so on, he looked yawning and listless. Until the principal mentioned the money, he immediately became energetic. Money in this era is slightly more valuable than in the old era. The average salary of an ordinary person is only over 2,000, and 3,000 is enough to support a family without starving to death. It can be seen that 30,000 yuan is still very attractive to he. What does diving mean? Diving. Just between and his doubts, the principal announced. Students who are still 3 months away from reaching the age of 18, please stay on the playground and wait for the upcoming talent test about the extraordinary. Everyone else, please leave first. Thank you for your cooperation. He was taken aback for a moment. Isn't it true that only those over 18 years old can undergo talent testing? Wang Peng whispered in he's ear. The previous batch of people who were over 18 years old had already been tested, and it was said to be very unfortunate. There was no extraordinary person. So the school is in a hurry, even those who are almost 18 years old can do it. Heching watched as nearly half of the class left. There were still quite a few people left, and only one teacher ordered a group of students and said, "You, go to the 1205 staircase classroom and wait. There will be dedicated personnel conducting talent tests for you soon." Among them, there happened to be he and Wang Peng. The group arrived at the staircase classroom and sat down. The teacher turned around and left. 10 minutes later, a muscular man in black arrived. He looked coldly at the whole class in front of him, with a hint of numbness flickering in his eyes. "So, teacher, may I ask what we should do? What does the principal mean by diving or something like that before?" A curious baby asks a question. "I don't have much time. While testing your talents, I will explain the system of this world to you." After speaking, the man in black seemed to be muttering to himself, as if in conversation with some invisible being. "Come out, don't dive underwater." Just as he was feeling puzzled, his pupils suddenly shrank. He saw it from the head of the man in black. Surprisingly, a ghost emerged. That ghostly existence is red in color and is about 1.8 meters tall. But the muscles covering the whole body are extremely terrifying, with a face like a ghost mask, long fangs, ugly and terrifying. The most crucial thing is that the body of this ghost is as light as water, like a ghost, and can easily pass through any object. It's better to say it came out of the soul of the black-clothed man than to say it came out of the black-clothed man's mind. Sleeping trough. Everyone was cursing profusely, and some even wanted to run away. Don't panic, it's called Qi. This is a ghost that I can control and also a presence that can test your ability to resist ghosts. The explanation from the man in black barely made people escape on the spot. And right beside Ji He, the blonde girl remained calm. Ghost guards usually acquire the power of ghosts within their bodies to engage in battles, but if they want to lead a person down, they will summon their own body. The man in black glanced at her. Are you Tang Shui? I've heard of you before. There have been many ghost guards in your family. People under the age of 18 in Qingchuan City are most likely to become extraordinary. You're right, humans cannot enter the deep sea. And only ghosts can lead people into the deep sea, even to the depths of the deep sea, to obtain endless potential, opportunities, and power. Speaking, the fierce red suddenly moved. It suddenly grabbed the neck of a student next to it and suddenly lifted it. The student's body was not lifted, but his visible soul was lifted by Qi like this. Soul and flesh separated, holding onto the hands of the bewildered person's soul, and then slowly fading away and disappearing. I'll wipe it. Are you sure your ghost didn't kill anyone? Wang Peng exclaimed in surprise, and the other classmates were also extremely restless. Don't panic, Qi just took him into the deep sea. The man in black explained. The deep sea, also known as the Abyss Sea, is not located anywhere in the world because it is the lair of all ghosts and monsters, only existing in deep in the soul. To become a transcendent, that is, a demon slayer, one must have their own soul dive into the deep sea and constantly dive. The deeper you dive, the higher your level limit in the future, and the stronger your soul power, potential, and gains. However, only ghosts and monsters are qualified to penetrate the deep sea, and ordinary mortals have no right to infiltrate. So, every ordinary person needs to constantly dive with the help of ghosts to test whether they are immortal or capable of becoming a ghost guard. Everyone suddenly realized that this is how the ghost guards test their talents. They stared at the man in black with big eyes and small eyes, afraid to speak out, but in their hearts they really wanted to know what is the situation of the person who was taken away at this moment. At this moment, Ji He suddenly opened his eyes wide. He saw it. He saw a deep, bottomless sea in the depths of his soul. The sea is black in color, filled with evil, tyranny and other auras, making people shudder. And just above the level of the sea, holding on to the student's hands, he suddenly jumped into the sea. They constantly dive into the depths of the sea, and as the depth deepens, the interior of the sea is surrounded by ghosts of various forms. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Diving Depth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Diving Depth. They all emit deep malice, maliciously peering at this sudden anomaly. Diving 3 meters into the deep sea, some weak little ghosts began to try to approach the student, but in the end, they were scared away by the red aura. Diving 5 meters into the deep sea, the student seemed to be starting to lose control. His body was struggling instinctively, but Qi kept holding onto his hand tightly, leaving him with no choice but to resist. Diving 8 meters into the deep sea, some slightly powerful monsters began to ignore the red aura and began to bite the student's arms and thighs recklessly. Finally, the student's soul was not resilient enough and began to struggle fiercely as never before. At the same time, the physical bodies of those students in reality began to emit mournful screams. The soul was constantly called by the body, and Qi had to let go of the student's soul, causing him to rush up to the sea and disappear into the abyss. At the same time, the man in black also expressed regret and said, Li Dong, dive 8 meters into the deep sea and almost reach 10 meters. This is the first chance to awaken talents or ghosts. Next. Red reappears, ready to take the next person to the deep sea in such a cycle. Look at Li Dong, his face is so pale. The teacher has said that this is a normal situation, but it is generally not fatal. It will only cause mental exhaustion for a few days, and just rest for a few days. I really don't know what that so-called deep sea looks like, it always feels terrifying and frightening. He was observing the words and actions of the people around him and found that they seemed unable to see the scene of Li Dong diving into the deep sea just now. What's going on when only I can see things that others can't see? Just between Ji and his doubts, the second student was also taken to the deep sea, just like the same method. This person is even more miserable. He doesn't even need to be attacked by ghosts and monsters. He couldn't hold his breath and voluntarily gave up. Then there is the third, fourth at the fifth moment, he suddenly widened his eyes. This is a boy. When he was diving in the deep sea for 7 or 8 meters and being bitten by ghosts and monsters, he was stunned and gritted his teeth to persevere. And upon reaching 10 meters into the abyss underneath the bottomless depths, another ghost emerged with a beer belly, rotten skin, and a bulky and obese figure. The chubby ghost did not bite the boy, but instead grabbed his hand and let out a fierce roar, as if swearing in sovereignty. At this moment, Chi took the initiative to let go and stayed at a position of 10 meters, watching the boy continue to dive under the guidance of the fat ghost. At this moment, the black-clothed man who shared the same intention as Chi Xin suddenly smiled. The first guy who can be trained to become a ghost guard has been born. As for his potential, it depends on how many meters he can dive next. However, after a while, although the boy's soul could withstand the biting of ghosts and monsters, the injury was too severe, and he was eventually forcibly summoned back because his soul reached its limit. And with him returning, there was also that fat ghost. After the fat ghost integrated into the boy's body, it disappeared without a trace. The man in black couldn't stop applauding. Congratulations to Wang Shi, the ghost that awakened after diving 19.5 meters in the deep sea should be a ghost 50 meters away. That is to say, in the future, your own ghosts and monsters can take you up to 50 meters away to the deep sea, gaining stronger potential and strength. Wang Shi's face turned pale and he almost fainted while lying on the table. I only need 0.5 meters to get the scholarship, unfortunately. He murmured regretfully. Repetitive behavior, even ghosts feel a bit impatient. Its actions of grabbing people's souls began to become rough, and many people were pained but dared not speak. After several consecutive attempts, he also realized what was going on. The 10 meters deep sea is the first test to determine whether a person is an ordinary person or has a chance to become a superhero. If you can't stand 10 meters, you're an ordinary person, but if you can stand it, it means you have a certain potential. When reaching 10 meters, if a ghost from a deeper sea can be found, it means that the person has the potential to become a ghost guard. At this point, the new ghost will replace the naked person to continue diving. The depth of human descent, as well as the depth of the ghost itself, determine the potential of everyone for the first time. If there are no ghosts coming up to claim it at 10 meters, it means that the soul power is sufficient, but there are no ghosts that match it, and there is also no potential. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that matching ghosts lurk deeper, only diving 10 meters and unable to summon matching ghosts. However, this involves the second and third tests, but the vast majority of people fail the first test, so they simply lack talent. Quickly, this batch of 50 people has already been tested for more than half. And the man in black also became excited from his initial indifference. 30 people have been tested, and 5 of them have fused with the matching ghosts, with a 1/6 chance, which is much higher than other schools. And the deepest awakened ghost is about 70 meters, and the deepest tester reached is 22.5 meters, okay. With this group of young talents, Hongyuan High School's awakened ghost guards in recent years will not be at the bottom of all high schools. At this moment, even the principal personally came over to investigate the situation. Great. Everyone, there is a bright future ahead. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. For anyone with potential, no matter how many meters they dive, the school will sponsor an additional 5,000 yuan. And you are free to choose your future job after graduation. If you have any difficulties at home, let me know and the school will help you solve them. The principal even called out those promising classmates, and there was a wave of various awards and promises, which made people envious. Wang Ping sighed and said, "Gee he, take a look at them. After graduation, they have started weaving, so there's no need to worry about food and drink anymore. I hope we both have the opportunity to become superheroes later." At this moment, Tang Shui, who was sitting next to her, flicked her long golden hair on her shoulder and sneered. "Don't imagine it too beautiful, this world is not a children's play, and even more so, guarding ghosts. Generally speaking, people with strong innate soul abilities are more likely to be selected. It manifests as being physically healthy and less prone to illness, having a strong and energetic physique, feeling like there is an endless supply of energy throughout the day, having good lung capacity, or possessing some unique characteristics that are different from ordinary people." Gee, he gave a bitter smile. "So, I'm afraid I don't have any talent anymore. I have been weak since I was young. When I was a child, I caught at least 3 colds a week, and my lung capacity has never been good. My energy is also limited, and I usually feel lethargic after only a few days." Tang Shui's expression in her eyes was slightly contemptuous. "Then there's nothing I can do to help. Generally speaking, this kind of person. No talent at all." Among the remaining people who had not yet tested, almost everyone surrounded Tang Shui, with envy and admiration on their faces. It is said that Tang Shui's family is a family of ghost guards with over 100 years of experience, and we cannot even catch up with them by flattering them. I know this. I heard that Tang Shui's father and brother are both ghost guards. So, is it certain that Tang Shui has become a ghost guard? So what's the point? In the future, Tang Shui needs to take more care of us. Gee, he was like an unattractive ugly duckling, perfectly squeezed aside, with a somewhat desolate expression. Tang Shui opened her mouth and wanted to apologize to him, but she didn't mean to hurt him. But in the end, my head suddenly twisted. Forget it, he's just an ordinary person without talent. He should adapt to the inequality in this society in advance. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. In the Toilet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. In the toilet. When testing around 40 people, the once docile Red suddenly burst out with a fierce aura and rushed towards the man in black at the same time. Ah! Amidst the screams of his classmates, Akashi bit off one of the black-clothed man's arms and slowly disappeared satisfied. Don't panic, this is a normal situation. The man in black said a faint sentence, and then his broken arm suddenly gave birth to another one out of thin air. Limb regeneration is the ability I acquired when diving 100 meters into the deep sea. Everyone was greatly shocked, but the person in black casually wrote. Also, have you seen the drawbacks of the ghost guards now? If you want to tame them for your own use, you can only first understand what they want from themselves. For example, Red, its ultimate goal is to eat me. But I have already made a deal with it, and depending on the degree of work, it will eat up one of my parts. Until you slowly eat a whole me. Remember, you can't completely satisfy a ghost's goal at once, let it take its time. Otherwise, no matter how gentle the ghost is, it will backfire on its master. The words of the man in black made everyone inexplicably shudder. It turns out that awakening the ghosts that match is just the first step towards guarding the ghosts. It's still a long time before you want to become a true ghost guard. Alright, that's all for testing your talents. I'm tired, and another ghost guardian will come over to test your talents later. Watching the ghost guardian and the principal leave, the students once again erupted into intense discussions. However, the focus of the discussion mostly revolves around Tang Shui. In the eyes of everyone, she is a genius who has not yet been tested, and flying into the sky is just a matter of time. But he lay on the table, feeling a bit depressed. Is it like being an ordinary person for a lifetime? He goes out to work now, earning a monthly salary of over 1,000. Not willing to accept it really makes people feel inexplicably unwilling. The man in black had just left when suddenly a black figure walked in. He instinctively looked up, thinking that it was the new ghost guardian who came to test their talents. But is there a ghost guard responsible for testing who came in carrying an axe larger than a human? His body was covered in white bandages, and even his entire face was covered, revealing only one bloodshot eye. With the arrival of this unwelcome guest, the lights in the classroom began to shake violently in unison. But the students didn't take it seriously, they just thought there was a wind blowing in, completely ignoring the strange existence in front of them. He dared not act rashly, he could only watch helplessly. The bandage man came to a person with a huge axe, and then raise the axe high and fiercely chop it towards the person's head. I thought blood would splatter. However, the axe went straight through the person's head without causing any damage. And the bandage man murmured in disappointment. No. Then, he came to Wang Shi's face and slashed fiercely once again. This time, he clearly heard an incredibly mournful scream. The obese ghost that Wang Shigang just merged lost his resistance ability after being chopped off with an axe. I could only let the bandage ghost drag it out of Wang Shi's body and put it into a sack in my hand. Then the bandage man repeated his old trick and applied it to a head time and time again. All the students who just tested, no matter what kind of monsters they awakened, were all packed into bags by this guy. But the classmates were still talking and laughing, without any noticing. Damn it, damn it. Are these people all blind? Can't they all see this ghost? By the way, it clearly collided head-on with that mysterious person just now, but he didn't react at all. He's pupils were constantly contracting, and his forehead was covered with beads of sweat as big as beans. The bandage ghost chopped towards the classmates one by one in the order of their seats. Anyone who was just detected to have talent was directly put into a bag by the bandage ghost. Even not only those that have been tested, but also those that have not been tested, will occasionally be brought out with a ghost. This indicates that talented individuals are born with a ghost in their bodies. Their bodies are sleeping inside the human body, while their souls reside in the deep sea. To awaken them, one can only go to the deep sea and find their souls. He gradually regained his flavor. No wonder in recent years there have been fewer and fewer ghost guardians at Hongyuan High School. It turns out that this guy is all playing tricks. But why, only oneself can see him? Did anyone else, including the powerful ghost defender just now, not see it? Watching Tang Shui fluently answer everyone's questions about the ghost guardian on the side, he suddenly felt a stir in his heart. Hey, let me ask, is there a situation in this world where one person can see ghosts and no one else can see ghosts? The others around Tang Shui were dissatisfied and said. What are you doing, you? There's no situation like what you're talking about. Get lost. Please, brother, would you like to get close to queuing? Everyone was full of gossip, but Tang Shui thought for a moment and whispered. Yes, there are even quite a few cases in this world. A person who is 50 meters deep in the sea can see a presence 10 meters above. But the presence of 10 meters above cannot be seen, and the presence of 50 meters below. However, the existence of 50 meters can float out of the sea at any time, making it visible to others. But if it's not willing, it will dive 50 meters away, making anyone above it unaware of its existence. He nodded thoughtfully, as if he had some enlightenment. So, when that red wedding dress suddenly disappeared, was it the same situation? And Tang Shui didn't take it to heart either. All her attention now is focused on this test. She instinctively squeezed her skirt tightly under her hands, she would definitely surpass her brother. She must be able to, the talents she has shown since childhood are all amazing. Suddenly, the bandage man struck Tang Shui's head with an axe. And then it's empty, nothing. The bandage maker seemed somewhat incredulous, as it repeatedly slashed several times. However, the fact is that Tang Shui doesn't have even the slightest bit of talent. Slag. The bandage man instinctively turned his head and glanced at Ji He. He instinctively felt a tingling sensation on his scalp. Although there is still a row of people's distance from he in order, it is still within reach. For no reason, he instinctively stood up. Anyway, he felt that he could never become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Suddenly, the bandage man suddenly turned his head again, and the only visible crimson eye seemed to be doubting something. "What are you doing?" Wang Peng looked at him strangely. I want to go to the restroom." After speaking, Ji Heto left without looking back. And the bandage man didn't take it seriously, continuing to harvest this group of just ripe chives. Arriving at the toilet compartment, he kept inhaling and exhaling, and his pale face only slightly improved. At this moment, he suddenly felt someone blowing air in his ear. He suddenly turned his head and saw Gu Qingqing sitting on the toilet, tilting his head to look at him. He instinctively covered his body. This is a really meowing men's restroom. Gu Qingqing licked his lips, exuding a myriad of charm. So what? The restroom can be convenient for doing something. Invisible things. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Fragrant soft rice, breaking the world record for 1 kilometer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Fragrant soft rice, breaking the world record for 1 kilometer. Gu Qingqing suddenly flashed on the toilet, and he didn't even react. He just felt a flower in front of him in less than a second. Gu Qingqing was already lying on he's chest, murmuring in his ear. How about it? Wandering deep under the sea, looking up at the scenery that no one else can see. He's pupils suddenly contracted. I can see things that others can't see, so you're the one who caused it. What exactly do you want to do? Gu Qingqing chuckled and placed a finger on he's lips. I can help you dive into the depths of the sea and take you to see scenery that ordinary people will never see in their lifetime. He rolled his eyes. Come again. I won't accept any help or kindness from you. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Sitting back on the toilet, with her hands propped up on her chin and her slender, delicate, and seductive long legs raised, Gu Qingqing laughed wildly. Believe me, you will come back. He looked at the red wedding dress with a firm expression. I've said that I don't need any of your gifts because I can't afford any of your kindness to me. After speaking, he turned around very stubbornly and left. And then he saw at a glance the black-clothed man hanging in mid-air at the entrance of the restroom, as well as the red head he was holding in his arms. Obviously, neither the black-clothed man nor the red to death expected that they would be easily slaughtered by a bandaged man. Suddenly, the bandager suddenly turned around, and the white bandage was stained with a trace of blood. The only exposed eye was full of ferocity. You can see me, you can see me. You must. It will be very delicious. In less than a second, he quickly took a step back, then, bumped and suddenly closed the door. He turned around and reached out his hand, looking at Gu Qingqing expressionlessly. Give it to me. What am I giving you? Soft rice. Gu Qingqing seemed to smile but not smile. Okay, but the condition is. Marry me. He shook his head without even thinking. No way. The man in black has taught him that he cannot satisfy the ultimate goal of ghosts and monsters at once. Otherwise, after one attempt, you will have no more value for ghosts and monsters. Gu Qingqing hugged his chest with both hands, and a hint of fascination appeared in his eyes. So, what can you give me? He's mind is spinning very fast. He wants to eat the man in black, so every time the man in black drives he will let him eat a part of himself. So, in terms of conversion, what does Gu Qingqing want? Getting married. No, to be more precise, it's craving his body. So, can I give you a kiss afterwards? This statement made he feel a bit embarrassed, as if it made his kiss so remarkable. Unexpectedly, Gu Qingqing's entire eyes lit up for a moment. Is it your first kiss? Yes. Deal. I've been waiting for your words for a long time. After speaking, Gu Qingqing actually opened his hands and looked at Ji He for a moment. What are you doing? Gu Qingqing didn't speak, she just stepped forward, embraced Ji He in your arms. Ji He. When others enter the deep sea, ghosts grab their hands. How did you get to Gu Qingqing? It's just like this, take advantage of this. The close contact that brings you into your arms can take you to the deep sea. Gu Qingqing explained, and then Ji He felt that heaven and earth were suddenly spinning, and his soul and flesh were separated. When Ji En woke up, he found himself standing on the deep sea level. But at some point, Gu Qingqing changed into a black swimsuit bikini and held Ji He in his arms. But Ji He, who was held in his arms, swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. Damn it, doesn't this woman feel like she's being taken advantage of? Then, Gu Qingqing jumped into the deep sea with Ji He. It's very damp and cold, as if it's constantly corroding the skin and flesh of Ji He. But with the protection of Gu Qingqing's body, this corrosiveness is almost non-existent. 1 meter underwater, Ji He feels a bit uncomfortable. 3 meters underwater, damn it, he can't handle it anymore, he's going home. This makes Ji He inexplicably disappointed, he is even more useless than he imagined. Don't worry, you have a talent that no one else can match, I guarantee. Gu Qingqing calmed Ji He's heart through the exchange of divine thoughts. At the same time, Ji and his horrified discovery, Gu Qingqing seemed to be able to replenish oxygen for him. 10 meters underwater, those little ghosts who bit people just now were still trembling under Gu Qingqing's breath. However, there was no movement in the 10-meter test, indicating that Ji He's first test will not reveal any talent. 20 meters underwater, Ji He has a subsidy of 30,000 yuan, great. 50 meters underwater, some ghosts and monsters dared to try to approach, but were slapped to death by Gu Qingqing. 100 meters underwater, this is a record that the man in black takes pride in. He also gained the superpower of amputation and rebirth here, but was easily surpassed by Ji He. 200 meters underwater, Gu Qingqing no longer knows how many ghosts and monsters he wants to kill just to bite Ji He. Anyway, Ji He must not have any damage. 300 meters underwater, ghosts and monsters that matched Ji He began to emerge, hoping to merge with him and make him a ghost guard. But he was still slapped to death by Gu Qingqing. Ji He is hers, no one can snatch him. 400 meters underwater, Ji He vaguely saw a presence similar to the bandage man. They can easily eliminate the 200-meter red, which is terrifying, but they are still easily broken through by Ji He. 500 meters underwater, damn it, Ji He is still being held tightly by Gu Qingqing and has no intention of stopping. Where exactly is she taking herself? Here, Mu Qianro is having a video conference with several high-level officials from the Lord's mansion. Mu Qianro, how are you? Do you have any good seedlings? Several members of the Lord's mansion sat at the conference table, with darkness enveloping their heads and a strong sense of oppression. Mu Qianro played with her fingers, feeling a bit lost. Everything is okay, but so far there hasn't been anything particularly outstanding. Each ghost guard is responsible for testing a batch of 50 people, totaling 250 people. But the deepest one is only barely 50 meters now. The high-ranking official of the Lord's mansion, Mr. Wang, gave a bitter smile. Now it's really getting worse with each generation. I remember you were the one who infiltrated the entire Qingchuan city, the deepest, reaching 100 meters deep. Mu Qianro emphasized. It's not that I can only dive to 100 meters, it's the abandoned ghost I awaken to, who can only take me to 100 meters. If there were stronger ghosts to guide me, I would have a chance of breaking through to 150 meters on my first dive. Li Lao Shen next to Wang nodded in agreement and then asked. How's it going? How many meters did the high school students in Qingchuan City reach during this test? Mu Qianro can not only see the strength ranking of ghosts and monsters, but she can also see other ranking lists. Let me take a look. A faint blue phantom appeared behind Mu Qianrou. The phantom stretched out its hands and covered Mu Qianrou's eyes. Qingchuan City has currently reached a maximum depth of 98 meters. Matsuya Castle, which is adjacent to the outer city, has infiltrated up to 108 meters and has been taken to the inner city for key training. The highest diving depth in the inner city of Wanchua City was 135 meters. The only main city, Dragon City, has infiltrated up to 156 meters. Our entire Huaxia has infiltrated up to 160 meters. The tallest person in Fusang district has infiltrated 155 meters. The first person to dive the deepest in this test worldwide was 170 meters. The record for the deepest dive in human history for the first time is 200 meters. Wang Lao and several other senior executives gave a bitter smile. Compared to the people in the inner and main cities, it's not clear how long it will take for a genius demon over 110 meters to emerge in our small rural area here. Suddenly, Mu Qianrou's eyes widened and she fell off the chair. The record of diving into the deep sea for the first time has been broken. How much? Mu Qianrou struggled to swallow a mouthful of saliva, and she couldn't believe her eyes. 1,000 meters. End of this chapter.